Hello, and welcome to the Holy Rivals Show. I'm here with my co-host, the Wild Ute.
Hey, how's everyone doing this Saturday?
After we had our great conversation yesterday, we really want to take a little bit more time to, one, listen to you guys. We really want to hear your comments and suggestions. And then if you want to participate in the show, I'm going to be posting the link. So we're really looking forward to spending some time talking about the regents meetings that were announced yesterday for Arizona Arizona State and Colorado. We have a note that was put out with a board that has been fantastic and provides amazing graphics that we'll review. And then from there, we'll just sort of see where the conversation goes. But we felt like there's enough live stuff, why miss any more time if we don't have to?
Absolutely, yeah. And like with these new meetings that were put on the docket here, there's some action seemingly. Like I know there's some dialogue back and forth on if this is a material thing. Are we hiring a treasurer here, or is this actually about realignment? There's been a lot of discussion
Right.
here, so
Let's jump right into it. So I want to give recognition to this board. I took one of their posts from yesterday, and I neglected to give credit for it. So I want to make sure everybody knows who they are. They do amazing graphics. It's college football news, I'm guessing, _plus. So CFBN _PLUS.
yeah, look at
And
the visuals too, Bomber. Look at that
I know they're incredible.
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad we're able to do the sharing of documents and stuff. We're moving to the next level. All right, so let's see. So let's scroll down here. And Philip, you mind reading this for me?
Yep. Let me zoom in. All right. So here's the events right here, right? So the Pac-12, the first bullet here, the Pac-12 still doesn't have a TV deal. Yeah, we all know that. And
Right.
then second bullet, Pac-12, June 30th, 2023, is the hard deadline for teams to leave the Pac-12 or Mountain West due to fines. And we talked about that briefly yesterday, Bomber, with San Diego State and how their fine doubles, right?
Right. Yeah, it'll go to 34 million. Yep.
And then we have here a bullet, and this is related to the University of Arizona, and this is a quote. Certainly, the hope, who knows, whenever you print the result may be different than the hope, but we'd like to be with the Pac-12 and continue the great tradition of the conference. But if not, there will be a new landscape and a new opportunity for the University of Arizona. And that's by the Arizona AD, and that was said on May 16th of 2023.
Right.
Now, Bomber, do you want to jump in, talk about this next bullet?
Sure, I'm happy to. Sorry, I was posting the link, so if people wanted to join the show,
Oh, yeah.
they could click it. Which line did you leave off on? I'm
We're on
sorry.
the ESPN line here.
Oh, ESPN is reported to be out of Pac-12 Tier 1 negotiations. That's been a rumor on and off for a long time. I don't think anybody's surprised about that. I think if it was pennies on the dollar, people would they could easily jump back in, just like Fox could. But they're not going to sign a media deal that's for 15 or 20 million dollars. I just don't think that happens.
Yeah.
And then Washington State, of course, that president this last week put a temporary freeze on athletic department because they've not only got a money shortfall, but they've been mismanaged. They've been spending money where they shouldn't. And actually, what's your insight in this? When I read that this week, it seems to be like it's not just the Pac-12 that has issues with money, but some of the schools within the Pac-12 have money issues.
Yeah, I think that Wazoo is a little concerned, really, what's going to happen in the future here. I think that obviously the payouts, the Pac-12 payouts are the lowest in the P5 already.
Right.
We all know that.
Yeah.
And plus with the Comcast issue looming too, that's taking out of budgets. And then obviously what's going to happen in the future here? I mean, like,
Right.
what's the projections look like? I mean, if Wazoo, if the pack doesn't continue, Wazoo might be going to Mountain West. You're talking about making what, a fifth of what you're making now. So I think this is just preventative care right here. Just
Absolutely. We've
seriously,
got
smart business.
it. It's not smart business at all.
Well, smart business if you're Wazoo, you have to do it. I mean,
Right.
you have to change your budgets,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
Hey, Jeff and Blake, thanks for joining the show.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Kaufman was here earlier. We got a comment here from Blake. I wonder if the Pac-12 will make more money per team if they lose Colorado and add San Diego State. Um,
Yeah.
it is an idea, but no, there's not enough value for them to go ahead if they lose Colorado. The best they're hoping for is to hold what they're currently on offer. But the only way that they could do that is if they bring in a P5 as a trade, but then they steal half the share from the P5, and that revenue then could go to the rest of the conference.
That idea is kind of intriguing to me, actually. I mean, if you lose Colorado, what kind of value do you lose there? And what kind of value does San Diego State bring? It's probably
Right.
not like, I mean, you're getting less value of San Diego State, but it just depends on how much you nickel and dime San Diego State. I mean, all the
Well,
rest of
yeah.
the schools might be able to make more money if you really, really nickel and dime San Diego State. So there could be a world where like a Utah or Washington or Oregon State make more money in that
Right.
scenario. But you're really bleeding out San Diego State for the life of the contract, probably. And everyone needs to know that Utah came in at a reduced share for many years in the Pac.
Just like BYU's going into the Big 12 at a reduced share.
Utah went a few years at 50%, then it went to 70, 80%, and now they're a full share member, but that's commonplace, right? So, I mean, you'd almost expect that. That's why it was so
Exactly.
unique when, the Big 12 offered so much, on the renegotiation.
Absolutely. That's the fact.
Yeah.
And San Diego State has worth. We talked about it last night.
Yeah.
I definitely think that they have value for the conference, but it's just not going to be enough to offset the very low number that they're starting with. So, yeah, that'll be a challenge. I have posted, just so everybody knows, you can leave a comment or suggestion in the comment string as we're going through the show. But we've also posted the link if you want to join the show. You just have to go on your computer, your cell phone, or your smartphone, I guess. Click that hyperlink, and it'll take you to a window. You turn it on, and then I bring you into the show.
You don't even need to share your face or anything, guys. We'd love to have you pop in and have a conversation. That's what the show's all about.
Right. I like to see
Yeah,
you. I'm not going to deny that I like to see people's faces.
for
But
sure.
yeah, if you don't want to, just don't enable your camera. So all right, let's go to the next one. Barry Trammell, everybody knows about his article, says that a source in the Big 12 indicates Colorado is ready to commit to joining the Big 12 soon. Now, soon is in quotes. What do you think about that?
Soon to me is very imminent. When I think of soon, I'm thinking like today, tomorrow, in a week. Not a few months down the line. So that's what I think of the word soon. How about you?
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, I think that the soon is all relative, but right now we're up against the 30-day window for San Diego State, and I think that's a deal breaker at this point. BR, good to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here with us today. Having a 2-day meeting, in other words, the agenda that's been announced for both Arizona and Colorado's regents meetings. I think there's something like a 24-hour notification of changing of the posted, whatever they're going to go over the itinerary. So the purpose of having both schools have two-day meetings, meaning the first day they could amend the agenda for the next day. So, and both these meetings, let's be very clear, they were both scheduled Friday. So let that sink in.
We're talking about scheduled, so like a few days later, right? On that
Right.
Friday.
Yeah. On the 30th and 31st.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 31st and 1st. That's right.
Look, I don't want to throw out any conspiracy theories, but I'm thinking of that word soon.
Yeah.
That word soon is really coming into play. Like, who
No
knows
joke.
something or not? There's so much smoke, though.
Absolutely.
Smoke that who knows, right? What's going on here?
Hey, Jeff, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up? You guys doing
all
all
right? Yeah. Absolutely. How's your Memorial Day weekend going?
Yeah. Just walked up from the lake, just going out doing some tubing and out on the water with some of the boys, and yeah, having a good time.
Very jealous of that right now.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm glad you're able to do it. By the way, a quick salute to all of the veterans that we
Absolutely.
have. And
Yep.
if you're watching this show later and it's already been taped, please know that, at least for me and mine, we really appreciate your service. I have veterans in my family, and you're never taken for granted.
Yep. As
Hey,
we
Jeff.
honor those who have given their lives, given the ultimate sacrifice on this weekend.
Absolutely.
Greg.
Go ahead. You.
Yeah, Jeff, how do you interpret the word soon?
Yeah. Whew, that's a loaded word. I mean, that was Barry Trammell, I think, who was quoting someone from the Big 12 source. It sounds like it was one of the coaches. He later clarified in a tweet. And
That's
reading
right.
reading the tea leaves, that's probably Mike Gundy. That would seem to be who he has the most connections with. But I guess I couldn't absolutely verify that. And Mike Gundy hasn't been shy at all about, talking about the value of some of the other products and talking up just building the Big 12 and growing. So he's made comments in the past. So that's but again, Barry Trammell didn't just go with that. He researched things. I'm sure he talked to other people before he went to print. As we've seen, he's not been searching for clicks on realignment.
No.
And so when he comes forward, to me, I think if something is going to happen, it's going to happen in the next 30 days. I still believe inertia is a powerful force. It takes a lot of, if you know your chemistry, that activation energy to get the reaction going. And that's, I think, what's half of it's just the Pac-12 not getting a deal, and so maybe ESPN and Fox have this. I don't know if it's grand plan or grand collusion. I can't think of them trying to work towards one another's benefit, but
Right.
it seems like Fox is definitely not wanting anything to do with the Pac-12, and I think maybe the feeling's mutual after they stole USC and UCLA, but you sort of thought that ESPN would want to jump in there and if not help the league, at least make them right, but they've just not wanted to play ball. You think they're maybe more philosophically aligned and culturally aligned,
Right.
with the left coast, as they say, but it's just not happening, and it must just be a dollars and cents thing that ESPN spent all its money. It sounds like it's not wanting to give any extra money to the SEC for bringing in Texas and Oklahoma, or playing a ninth conference game instead of 8, which is crazy. I mean, that's obviously worth a lot more money to them, but they just must not have it to give out. And maybe the Big 12 just jumped in and got the last of what was available, and that filled up the content that they had to have, and they're just going to make it work with what they have.
So why don't you, your comment I just put on the screen here, Jeff, explain the funding for BYU for the next couple of years before the new media deal starts.
Yeah, so that's what I've seen and heard reported. I mean, I'm not the guru. I haven't read the contract itself, but everything that I've heard is that BYU will get a 50% payout. All the new members will, for 2 years, and that will have to come. Out of the pieces of pie from the remaining 8 schools, and or possibly this buyout. The $100 million that they got from Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So but again, that's only 50% for 2 years, and then apparently once the new contract kicks in, I think is it 2026 or 2025 to 2030? Yeah. So that we'd apparently be getting full share after 2 years of 50% is what I've heard, which is much better than almost all the other realignment situations that we've seen. I think you quoted Utah having several years. I think it was 5 or 6 year ramp up to get the full share. Maryland and Rutgers, they're still not at 100% share in the Big Ten.
Wow.
So yeah,
he's going to get a full share before Rutgers in Maryland.
I know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been over a decade, and they really wanted in the Big Ten, and I'm sure it's going to pay off in the end. But financially, those 2 schools have sort of been struggling. I don't know where they're spending all their money. Rutgers and Maryland, they've had to get loans from the Big Ten, and I think part of that is because they still are expected to buy into the Big Ten network, so they've had to sort of pay in. I don't know if that's part of what's being withheld from them, or if the deal is, you just get a smaller share and you still have to pay in to be, part owner in the, equal owner in the Big Ten network.
Right.
So that's part of the calculus. But then that's like then they have that, I guess, goodwill. They have that, capital or equity, I guess you say equity ownership in the Big Ten network, which is, worth a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back to your BYU comment, Jeff. So
I can bring it up.
Yeah, go back to the comment there. So
Yeah.
I guess under the current Big 12 deal with Texas and Oklahoma, there was no like Prorata or anything for the new ads. There's none of that. Is that kind of what I'm interpreting here? Is that why that's a share out of like the exit fees?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. There was no pro rata clause, and that makes a lot more sense why they didn't add schools earlier. I think originally there was a pro rata clause that said, oh, anyone you deem worthy, and we're going back, I think 2015, 2016, when the first dog and pony show happened, that all the schools lined up. Apparently there was a pro rata at that point that says everyone that comes in gets a full share. And so people saw that and they're like, as people in the league are like, hey, we could bring in, 4 or 6 teams and we're getting a full share, and we could tell them they're getting a reduced share. And I think ESPN and Fox sort of caught wind of that, and they're like, oh, hold on. Let's talk about renegotiation. And so they sort of renegotiated the grant of rights and I think put in some better things. I think they pretty much told the Big 12, hey, if you do this, you're doing us wrong, and we are not going to play nice with you in the future. If you just bring in, 4 schools at a full rate that aren't worth it. And back then, apparently, they said, BYU was worth it, but there wasn't another partner who, was additive along with BYU. And so that sort of killed the deal, and Texas and Oklahoma just not wanting to share their large piece of the pie that they were, they didn't want to split the pie any smaller, since they were so top heavy, such big brands, and already getting less than they quote unquote deserved for being big brands.
So Jeff, before you go, I have a really outstanding question, and I think this is really important. We've talked about it for weeks and weeks in sort of side conversations, but nobody's actually answered it directly. Why is Colorado, for that matter, all the Four Corners schools, worth more in the Big 12 than the Pac-12? Because the Pac-12 people that they want their conference to survive, they're like, why would they be worth 31x in the Big 12, but in the Pac-12 there are only 20?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's sort of what a lot of people have been thinking. They look at the brands in the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and it seems to be they should get fairly equal media value. Some of the brands and history in the Pac-12 are maybe a little stronger, one or two, above what brands, far beyond what anyone in the Big 12 has. But it's I wrote an article about it, about the new members bringing the extra value,
right?
Not just because of who they are with their fan bases and their alumni and enrollment, but also because they expand the map. They got into a new time zone with BYU, and that opened up that fourth that after dark window, that after 10 p.m. Eastern kickoff, which the Big 12 didn't really have access to. But now the Big 12, can play games in all 4 windows. You got your noon kickoff, your afternoon, your prime time, and your after 10 p.m., your after dark. So that's, there's no other conference that's had that. The Big 10 now does with USC and UCLA, and voila, they're just signed the biggest the biggest TV contract of all time for anyone in college sports. So that apparently is worth a lot. And I think, Yormark's been up front saying, I want to be on the West Coast. We want that 4th time zone. I think Colorado doesn't give that 4th time zone, but it gives double the content, double the games, potentially a home game every week in that at that last time slot between
right.
BYU and Colorado. So I think that's why, the Big 12 is worth more for some reason than the sum of its parts, and the Pac-12 is sort of the opposite. The sum of the parts is less than what you think it would be.
Exactly.
It has to be history too, though, right, Jeff? With Colorado playing those old Big 12 teams.
Yeah, I think that's
like an
yeah.
eyeball
I mean,
interest, right?
yeah, I think that's part of it. You bring some of that up. You bring Dion back into the Texas, viewership group where he played for the Cowboys and just a legend there in Dallas and other areas. And but that being said, Colorado's biggest rival was Nebraska when they were in the back in the old Big 12 and back into the Big 8, I think it was. And so that rivalry is not coming back with them joining back. But hey, Nebraska, they haven't done much in the Big 10, and there's no way they're coming back just financially. But I think a lot of their fans miss those good old days of playing those regional, and they were more relevant. They could recruit Texas, and they were a better team and better product, and they might risk their fan base softening. They've got an amazing fan base, but how long can they keep it up with with an inferior product that they've been putting out there?
For sure. Hey, Jeff, before you go, one last question here. Okay. I read a piece that you put together here. Maybe it was a tweet. It was something. And there was a lot of analysis that went into this, but you came to the conclusion that BYU per year was worth approximately $60 million. Is that correct? Can you expand on that a little bit?
It's from 30. Yeah. It's from 36 to 48, I think.
I thought it was 50.
No, it was 59.2.
Oh, okay.
And I know that just people are like, whoa, BYU is only getting paid 10 to maybe 15 million at the top end as an independent.
Right.
But so much of that value is because we're not an independent anymore. Independent contracts are so risky, and for the media partners, you're locked into certain games, and if either of the teams is really bad that year, like Notre Dame, they're only getting paid 15 million a year in their contract right now. That's the average annual value for their TV contract. I mean, that just sort of is almost unbelievable. But
that's only for the 6 home games, though.
Well, exactly, and that's all you get.
Because the other money is from the ACC for them.
Sure. I'm talking about their football, and that equates with BYU's independent contract. That's why I was saying, BYU jumped in value. Yeah, BYU got a little money from the West Coast. Notre Dame's getting a lot more from their ACC, other sports.
Right.
You only get those 6 or 7 home games, and you don't get your major brand on the road at other places.
Right.
But the biggest reason is, like I said, it was just a perfect storm of adding a new time zone, and BYU's fan base is valuable. I've talked to some people who say they've seen, this was a few years back, but they've seen the media value of different teams, and apparently, according to ESPN's ranking of value per team, BYU was right around the top 20, right at around that 20th, which again, that's based on someone who said they saw it. I didn't see it, but BYU is worth a lot more to the Big 12 than they would have been to the Pac-12. But still, even then, Stuart Mandel said at any point in the last 4 decades, BYU could have been added, and that would have brought value to the Pac-12. So, the Pac-12 was looking at getting 40, 45, maybe 50 million a year with USC, UCLA staying there, so having BYU bringing more value to that conference, it's not unheard of to think that BYU's value could have been up around that 45 to 50 to the Pac-12, and is even more valuable to the Big 12.
Well, Jeff, the Pac and BYU kind of had a live-in girlfriend relationship.
You are right.
Like the Pac didn't want to nice to BYU, but we love playing the Cougars, and all the schools were playing BYU. So really, we were kind of getting the benefit from the BYU brand.
You wanted the milk, but didn't want to buy the cow.
Yeah, that's it.
And forgive me if I'm not too sympathetic. I should be a better person. I should be, but forgive me if there's a little bit of Schadenfreude of just being rebuffed. All this, I was big on realignment back into 2010, 11, 12 when Utah got picked up, and then all through these other times, this cultural fit and just knowing that BYU is a strong brand, a strong value, and just being kept out because of cultural fit issues, whether it's research, whether it's religious disdain of a religious institution. It's I'll take the high road and say I'm just happy that BYU's in a good spot, and I think a better spot than most of us fans would have picked at any point in the last 30 years. I think right now we're just in a great position, and happy to see what we can do with it.
Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate you jumping on. We'll have to schedule another Mafia show where you and Ryan will hop on and we'll break some more data down. Maybe we'll have information that relates to this Four Corners move.
All right. Sounds good. Great show, guys. I'll pop
All
off.
Right. Thanks.
Keep it
we'll
going.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye. All right. Jeff Fuller.
So Clint here, Clint Moses.
Yeah, he's got a few here. So go ahead and you can read these.
I want to say something. Hey, it's Clint. I've been wanting to talk with a Beaver fan for a bit. So if you feel comfortable calling in, I would love to talk about Oregon State.
I posted the link. All they have to do is click on it and they can join
Oregon
us.
State fans, just jump on. Let's talk about what's going on. I'm so curious what the Oregon State fans are thinking. If you feel comfortable, we invite you. Definitely.
Clint's got go Utes, go go Utes, go Beavs, and then back the pack. So we appreciate loyalty around here, Clint.
Absolutely.
So we really appreciate you guys being here. And as far as I'm concerned, BYU and Utah are with the majority of college football teams in that they're underappreciated. Doesn't matter what conference we're going to be in, we're always going to be a little bit looked down on. That's just always the way it's going to be. And so we definitely want to represent those groups. Washington State, Oregon State, I mean, hell, Boise State and San Diego State. I'd love those people to come in and kind of tell us what they're thinking. We're about the rivalry, BYU Utah, but it's more of a regional type thing. We're trying to represent this whole Mountain West and Pacific underappreciated area, and we love having you here.
Yeah, we're repping the Pac and the Big 12 here, so it's not just about the rivalry.
All right, here's another one from Blake. So I guess, do you know what he means by this? The disdain for the Big 12? Is he talking about from a Pac-12 standpoint?
Probably from a Utah and Pac standpoint.
Okay.
The thumbing the nose of the Big 12.
Right.
There's been some elitism. Let's be honest about that, right? There's been some fan bases that have acted that way. Some Utah fans have acted that way too.
Right.
I totally understand it. And if I were just a Big 12 fan, I'd probably feel the same way. So I get it. I mean, there is some of that. Not all fan bases in the Pac are like that. Oregon State, they're not like that. Wazoo, they're not like that.
No, not at all.
U of A is not like that. ASU is not like that.
Nope. No. Dustin Flannery, welcome to the show, Dustin. Yeah, appreciate you being here. By the way, for all those watching, please subscribe, hit your notifications on YouTube so you make sure you get those notifications when we're starting, and then give us a thumbs up and leave comments and suggestions, because we're taking story ideas and show ideas from those comments. And I think so far I've been able to reply to every comment so far. So we look forward to receiving that feedback from you guys. Let's see here. Dustin says, it also has to do with total money spent. Does ESPN want to do 15 million a time for 4, meaning the 4 corners, or 15 million for 10 to 12, which is 150 to 180? Obviously, yeah, there's more value if you can buy more for less.
Yeah, if the 4 corners jump, it's going to be the Big 12 after dark. There ain't going to be any Pac-12 anymore. That's really, if I'm an ESPN executive, that's what I'm thinking, right? That's really what's going on. They're looking to do more with less here,
Absolutely right. I just posted
the Big 12 after dark. I mean, if the 4 corners jump, I mean, you get ready for that. because all of a sudden ESPN has more inventory for that late night spot. That's totally going to happen.
I think I look forward to being in the Mountain and Pacific time zones. I don't mind those late kicks. BYU has a superior record when they play late night games, so I think most BYU fans
I'm a season ticket holder for the Utes. Getting home so late, like 1:30 in the morning, I hate those late kickoffs.
Yeah, well, if you go to the Big 12, you're going to be playing a lot more of them. So I think you just sort of buckle up for that. Let's see here. Clint says Colorado has great tradition. Iowa State, Kansas State. I agree. I think they're a natural fit back to the middle of the country, frankly, in my opinion. West Virginia, 26th. I glad BYU is Big 12 ready for the West Virginia and BYU football games. We're looking forward to it. Believe
I
me.
love the Mountaineer fans, the ears. Yeah, every single Mountaineer fan I've ever met, good people, right? They love the Mountaineers. So West Virginia, that's a great brand, underrated
Absolutely.
brand. Seriously.
Yep, and I'm looking forward to those games, actually. I have always liked West Virginia, and I think they'll be very competitive. All right, let me post the link again. If you want to join the show, please click that link and we'll bring you right in. I'll get back to this tweet that I was reading at the beginning. Third from the bottom. In a perfect world, we'd love to be in the Pac-12. This is the AD from Colorado saying this. But we also have to do what's right for Colorado at the end of the day. We'll evaluate things as we move forward. I don't think there's anything else to it. What do you think?
I think they've done all the evaluation. I think they've made the decision. I think they know ballpark figures for the Pac.
Right.
I don't even know what the holdup really is at this point. I mean, I guess like the only holdup might be, can we get Oregon and Washington to fully recommit? Like, how much time do you give them? That's the question in my mind's eye.
And that's a question. Why haven't the other 12 or 10 teams, 8 teams gotten together and put them under the knife? Why haven't they done that?
They have all the leverage.
Yeah, so that's why we're where we are, right?
So you're kind of tiptoeing around that.
Yeah, it's true.
And so like this is a giant game of chicken, right? Like you can't upset this party, you can't upset that party, TV stuff going on, George C. doing his stuff. Like it's just a dance, a weird dance. Someone's going to bust out of this dance, and it might be Colorado.
I think it probably will be. All right. Next one is Colorado adds 2 special executive board meetings for the 30th and 31st. And then Arizona added theirs for June 1st. And theirs are on just the one day, June 1st. We've got somebody, Dustin. All right.
I thought I'd jump on.
Thanks for joining. What's on your mind?
Oh, not much. Sometimes I feel like, I want to respond to what you guys are saying, but it's hard in a chat.
You're fine.
Go ahead. Who's your team? Who's your conference?
I'm BYU, so been BYU fan since the 90s. Been a tougher decade, the 2000s, right?
Right.
But obviously kind of, I guess, pro Big 12 now since it's our
Absolutely.
I've been following a ton on Twitter and the YouTube shows. I see you, Wild Ute, all over the place. I see both of you guys all over the place, and I think I follow both of you, and you both follow me. What was the comment I was going to make? You guys were just saying something I was going to respond to, but
we're talking about CU and like all the smoke going on and everything. There's just
why wouldn't they move?
And everything. Right?
We're saying they have a decision made. I think they are wanting to come to a decision this next week, right? Because I think there's still I still think there's a chance, right? Even if all the smoke is that they're leaving, I think there's always a chance they stay if they don't feel like the political support is there.
Yeah.
Right. Because, maybe the president thinks it's the right idea. Maybe they're like, this is probably what we should do. But if you don't have, and that's why I think Colorado has always been the most likely candidate to leave first, because they were in the Big 12. So there's less of the scariness, right? They were just there 15 years ago. So I think they have less of that opposition than anybody else because they do have a few rivalries that exist already.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes total sense to me why Utah would be one of the most resistant, right? They've been so successful. But Pac-12 has been such a huge benefit for them. It's just why would we leave it, right? And the only way is if they're the ones left standing at the altar. If Stanford, Cal, Oregon, Washington leave, I think that's when Utah says, oh, well, we don't have another choice now. And if Colorado and Arizona's go, it makes a lot of sense because you do have those Arizona rivalries and the Colorado and BYU rivalry. But like I totally get like Utah would be more hesitant than others.
Sure.
Yeah, but so, and Arizona obviously because of the basketball thing, I think is why they probably. I think there's a lot of logic between where everybody currently stands. Like,
yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Arizona is the one school that makes the most sense to me. Basketball,
Right.
how close you are. I mean, like you're fairly close to Texas Tech, like just seems like such an easy fit. The best fit maybe and stuff with Arizona. So I'm surprised they're not really the one school that's pulling right now, but it's CU. They'll probably, jump on after pretty quick.
But I mean, the Arizonas have been there a while, right? At 40, 50 years in the past.
It was 40. 1977 is when they joined the Pac-12.
Yeah, and you have to do it voluntarily. And I think internally, right, I bet the Pac's probably done a pretty good job. I get the sense that there's a lot of social pressure among the presidents to, kind of stick it out and be loyal, right? It's like, because you have to go against what all your peers want you to do by leaving. Like,
right.
I know everybody's like, oh, why is this dragging out? Why aren't Colorado or Arizona or Utah reading the tea leaves and going? I mean, I think they are starting to kind of get to that point I think they were always hopeful, right? They wanted to be optimistic. They've had a lot of hope that maybe this deal would get done. And I think, I think even though they've all wanted it to be more than the Big 12, I think definitely even at this point, if it were less, they'd stay. But I do think it must be quite a bit less. And I got a baby here, so
that's all right.
It's all good.
So I have a question for you, Dustin.
Sure.
Now that we're going to be in the Big 12, what's the one thing you can't do? Don't give me 5 things. What's the one thing you're looking forward to most about being in the Big 12?
I don't know. I think the games will be fun. I think the competition and the quality of the games, because in Independence, right, it'd be like we'd have some high quality games and some really low quality. And it was and it was worse at the beginning. Towards the end, the last few years, it was better because we had 5 or 6 really good games.
Well, I think let me just interject here real quick. I think the reason for that is because it's hard to get up for some of these games that they were playing. Northern Illinois, and I mean, it's just, if you were playing a big schedule all the time, I think BYU's always played down to their competition. They get up for a game like Utah Baylor, and then they'll turn around and almost throw Utah State away. So you can keep going. I think there's a reason for that. Yeah.
I mean, the Big 12, there's a lot of parity. I'm just excited. Hey, that it's, this year we get Texas and Oklahoma, but even after that, I mean, I bet almost all of them will be good games. And so it's just fun competition, fun areas. I haven't traveled to any of the away games against the Pac teams. But I have my best friend born in West Virginia, grew up in Washington, so he's a UW fan, but he's a huge BYU fan. Especially, he loved Bronco. Okay. He lives in Missouri now, though, so I could see myself now that we're in the Big 12, like traveling out there, staying with him, and going to a game with him. Whether because it's not as far, and I imagine he'll go to a few of the games. I think he went to Baylor last year. So I think you're going to find out that BYU's fans are going to travel so well, they're all going to take up after what TCU did and start restricting tickets to non-season ticket holders. Yeah, I think it depends.
That's wild stuff.
Yeah, it's a fact. They put out a news release basically saying it's just nuts. Yeah. Anyway, well, is there anything else, Dustin, you want to tell us while you've joined us? Oh, you're on mute if you didn't know. I did. I just got the baby here. You're fine.
Is that baby going to be a Ute fan, Dustin?
Well, probably not. I mean, most of my mom's family went to the U, but none of them are passionate about sports, except for her oldest brother. So he and his kids are passionate U fans. But my dad was a BYU fan, and he actually cared about football. So and even though he's from Idaho and didn't go to the Y, I did though, and most of my siblings did. Although we have a few more Aggies than Utes in our family too. Gotcha. I had a sister almost go to the U, so maybe we would have had more, but
nice.
I have cousins. I have a lot of cousins who went to the U. I have a lot of good friends who have gone to the U, and obviously with how well the U's done, I feel like they've grown a lot in popularity, right? Because they've been so good. When you're that good, people want to cheer for you. So anyway, I want to congrats the Utes and their fans for the ride they've had, and it's not over yet for them. So, I mean, they have a chance at the playoff here. At least this next year, right? While they're still
that's the aim. That's the aim. I don't care if folks laugh. That really still the aim, and I think this team has the chance to do it with rising.
Win the last Pac-12 tournament that's ever worth it.
Wow.
Again, with USC and UCLA, and you got to get it done.
And you guys were close. I mean, you win one more game last year, right? You probably are in the playoff, or the year before, maybe. But
yeah,
that's kind of like BYU, right? We've been one game away as well from it. More than one.
The schedule will sort itself out going forward. The teams we're going to be playing, if you win 10 games in the Big 12, you're going to be in the final. In the
expanded playoff, yeah, probably.
Oh, definitely.
Now, I think now both teams have a better chance now with the way it's set up. So
right.
I mean, that's what's kind of tough with this Pac situation, right? Because in a way, if everybody was like, if the Big Ten just was like, we're not grabbing anybody now, and Colorado and the deal was high enough, right? I easily see them stick around 5 or 6 years, and then they definitely get a playoff team or two in, because Pac's good right now, but
right.
But yeah,
for me, it's all about the long term, though. I don't want to play a 3 to 5 year game. I want the Utes to be taken care of for like 7, 10, 20 years. And that's my concern. And I'll throw that in. If there are any Ute fans watching, I'd seriously, like, what's the game plan here? Over like 5, 7, 10 years, like somebody tell me how staying in the Pac makes sense.
Right.
Please, I will reconsider my thoughts. I don't understand it. I know a lot about this. Like, I just don't see how it's going to help Utah in the long run staying in the Pac, especially with these non-committal schools. Oregon and Washington won out. They won the Big. They'll keep fighting for the Big. What the heck are we going to do? What's going to happen with the program with less visibility, less money? Come on, let's be real about this. Think about it.
And now's the time to start. If you haven't done it to now, now's the time to start making up those opinions, because the future is short now. Well, thank you, Dustin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dustin.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. All right. As we get back into doing some comments here, I'll post the link again if you want to join us. We are looking for Utah fans to engage. The BYU's been fairly active on social media over the last 10 months. Utah's had some struggles. So if you're a Utah fan, please join the show and
please
let's talk.
And just, you can tell me I'm wrong if you see it differently. I want to know. Just tell me how it makes sense, and I might reconsider. Like, somebody show me.
Let's see here. Somebody in the end is going to get left behind from Blake. Yeah, and that was my contention for months and months. If Utah waits too long, the bus might be full. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's a situation where that could be the case. I don't think that's very likely.
Right.
You know what? Like, what's the likelihood that the Big 12 would pull the Four Corners plus San Diego State, maybe plus like an Oregon State? Like, if you want more Pacific time zone schools,
I think that would be great. But
Oregon State or Wazoo. Like, because I mean, State now, they're not going to come to the Big 12. We've talked about that before, based on culture fits.
Right. Yeah, they don't want any part of it.
Or Wazoo, does that make sense at all? No one's talking about that. Like, grabbing 6 schools. I mean, you could open more slots.
Who do they have advocating for them? Not a lot.
Oregon State
and Oregon State and Washington State. They've been told now for 10 months. Once the announcement was made, they've been told that they're less than. They're the ones that are, next train stop is the Mountain West. Well, I'm just saying that's what they were told at the very beginning. And so you and I want Wazoo and Oregon State to go along with the Four Corners, but I don't know how many people are listening to you and I. Well, let's see here. Clint, again, CU is losing record to everyone in the Pac besides Arizona. Yeah, they've struggled. But they have a winning record against Iowa State, K-State, and Kansas. So, and OSU. See, there you go.
It's almost like a different program, like the Big 12 CU and the Pac CU. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You want to take this one from Blake?
Yeah, Blake says, I respect Utah's loyalty to their conference. It's admirable for sure, but don't make up education fit culture. Big 12 is truck stop. Save that for the birds. Yeah. Some of this is social media banter. Sure. I mean, social media is a crazy place. We all know that.
Right.
Not all Ute fans feel this way, guys. Like we've had multiple Ute fans on this channel, and every single one of them doesn't think that. It's just a loud voice on social media, right?
Right.
Saying that. But if you meet face to face with other Ute fans, it's just I don't think that's really the take. It's just a crazy social media world, and the Ute fans, they feel attacked too. So there's mudslinging. It's ugly out there. I get it and stuff, but it seems like the temperature's changing too on that. Maybe just so slightly.
I think so. I think that people are seeing the writing on the wall. It's one thing to be positive and supportive. It's another thing to be realistic and look over your own best interest. Let's see here. Blake again. I respect Utah's loyalty for the conference. The truck stop comment.
Yeah, we read that one.
Oh, sorry. I thought I moved on. Truck stop was a bad deal. You only have 2 people to blame for that. We won't talk about them now. Dustin says, I think OSU is definitely candidate before Wazoo. Yes, I think I've heard that.
Does that make sense though? Does like Oregon State?
I don't know if it makes sense.
Make sense. Like, can you make that make sense? Like, it might, because if you want those time spots, then SDSU and Oregon State, that might actually be a play, guys.
Versus the question was between Washington State and Oregon State. If you were comparing them, which would you take? I think Oregon State's more valuable. Oregon State's they're building a brand new football stadium, or they're retrofitting the one they're in. They've reinvested in their athletic programs. I think there's a lot more willingness. Meanwhile, Washington State's fallen off the rails.
And Pullman's a very small town, small stadium. I would think that Oregon State probably. Wazoo has some seriously passionate fans too.
They do. I know that because I grew up amongst them. So I'm a Washington State fan. I'm a Husky fan. So
it just sucks that anyone's getting like possibly left out, right? It hasn't happened yet, but just getting left out is horrible.
Right. BR says, yeah, Monty Show's been advocating for Oregon State. So have we. For as long as anybody who's known us, especially on Twitter, we've been advocating for both schools for a long time. So
I don't think there's any steam around that, though. I think that's just going to talk and speculation and ideas at this point. But
that's probably true.
Could make sense if you really put it to paper, the math-wise. If you want to add those extra slots, and depending on who in the 4 corners is coming over, I mean, who knows?
While I'm waiting for more comments, a new one just came in. But I just want to remind everybody to subscribe. Hit the like buttons. Definitely leave us your comments and suggestions. And then we're very close to having our channel monetized, so you'll be able to make donations. We're both out of pocket for this thing, so if there's little donations, you're welcome to give us. We would sure appreciate it, but it's not required. We just really like to know that we want you guys to know that we're here for you. Let's see here. Our next one from West Virginia 26. The game plan is still to have a seat at the big boy table for football. That's right.
That's everyone's game plan. Yeah. No one wants to not be at the big boy table, right? And that's what we're talking about too with the P3 thing, the move to P3 or P4 and stuff.
Right.
It ensures that you're going to have a seat. If you can't get into P2, if you can't meet that financial hurdle, like so many schools can, like what, 10 can, 15 can, 20 can.
Right.
Like, consolidating, making 3 conferences, 3 major conferences is a way to do it.
I just posted the link. If you want to join the show, please click on that link from your smartphone or from your laptop, and we'll get you on the show. I know there's more people with good opinions out there. Just to wrap up about this first post that we started at the very beginning, Ute, we've got 4 schools that are really at the front of the news. They're the ones who are getting all the run. Are there any that we're not thinking about? And you brought up San Diego State earlier. Let's talk about them a little bit. We talked about it
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah.
Where do you think San Diego State? One, they have two decisions. One, they have to make a strategic decision. Do they continue to hitch their buggy to the Pac-12 and ride or die, or do they get a little more pragmatic and circle back with Brett Yormark, who months ago was very high on them, but now that the Pac-12 might be falling apart, might be losing interest? What do you think?
So what do you do if you're San Diego State right now? That's really kind of another way to phrase that, right? What the
Right.
heck do you do? How do you play this? Well, San Diego State wants the Pac. They want the Pac bad, and here's the reason they want the Pac, because they'll be affiliated. We're talking about San Diego State will be affiliated with Stanford and Cal Berkeley, guys.
Right.
Like that means way more than you would ever realize. So San Diego State's going to wait this thing out, cross the fingers for the Pac, for sure. If the Pac implodes, then they're going to make that first call to the Big 12. But they want that alignment with the state schools, those prestigious state schools. That makes perfect sense. Like seriously. So if the Pac survives and Stanford and Cal are in conference, they're going to want to be aligned with those schools if they can. That's my take on it.
I think you're exactly right. I just hope that they don't get left at the altar because they waited too long.
It could happen.
That's all I wait. I could see the Four Corners, UConn, and San Diego State coming to the Big 12. Not a lot of people are putting any noise behind that, but I could see that working out because Yormark wants basketball so bad.
What in the world is Cal Berkeley going to do? We're talking about San Diego State. Let's talk about Cal Berkeley. What are the options for Cal in this landscape? Like seriously, what do you think, Bomber?
I think they go independent.
Cal.
Stanford, I think, goes to the Big Ten with Notre Dame. You bet, absolutely.
Ooh.
Think about it. They can fill the exact void. There's voids in schedules where you need out of conference games that BYU's been covering. They're mostly about participation, just like Stanford is for the Olympic sports anyway. So them being in a league, they could join the West Coast Conference for basketball. Cal has enough of a fan base, graduates and whatnot. Certainly they have the money and endowment to back it up. Yeah, I could see them going independent.
I can see Stanford going independent.
Oh, see, I can't see Stanford doing it.
I can see
you can see Stanford doing that?
Definitely, with their endowment, with their Olympic sports. Cal, I think, is all in on the Pac and Big Ten. I mean, the Big Ten, that's going to be their play. I mean, remember all that stuff, the political stuff that happened last December where their state politics were trying to get them in the Big Ten? Come on, like, everyone wants that. They want that so bad. But really, I don't see Cal going to the Mountain West. I mean, I guess if Cal's around, the Pac's probably going to survive because of that name, like the academics and everything. So probably some call-ups from the Mountain West.
What do you think about just shuttering the Mountain West and making it just all branded the Pac?
Yeah, I think that's basically what's going to happen. I don't think the Pac's it's going to look different. It's not going to die. It's just going to look really different. I think Mountain West is going to get rated buku, right?
Yeah,
whenever
it's
this
going to be
happens.
ugly.
The Pac name, right? The Pac name's going to survive, and you're going to have a couple good brands there still likely. So I think the Pac's going to survive. The Mountain West might not exist. That's how I see it.
I think that's probably what's most likely to happen. If all these four schools move, I think you're right.
And Oregon and Washington jet too. I'm telling you, like, until Oregon and Washington move, like, they might be playing this dance, this little game and everything.
I don't know how long. I think Yormark might be saying if you guys aren't going to do it by some date behind closed doors, if he says you guys don't give us some indication, then we're just going to shut it down and we'll talk about it in December or January, because where else are these schools going to go? And is the Pac-12 going to get a media deal between now and the end of the year that's any better than they've currently got in front of them? I don't think so.
Probably
if anything, it could get worse. It's only gotten worse since the thing started. So anyway, I don't know.
It looks pretty bleak, doesn't it? That's what I'm talking about, though. Like, some Pac fan, I don't care if it's a Ute fan, just tell me how it makes sense, really, like that how we can work this out and build this Pac thing to how the dollars make sense, the exposure. I want the Pac to survive. I love the Pac. It's just like everything is against us now. Like, I just don't see it.
really quick, let's do another call out for anybody who wants to participate. I've posted the link. Click on the link or leave your comments, and we'll talk about them in the show as we've got right here in front of us. Kaufman's got another comment. I think OSU will get to the Big 12 because they would make a good travel partner for Gonzaga. Sure. I don't know. I have no problem with Oregon State joining the Big 12.
They're fit.
Yeah. In fact, I would love to have the black and orange Super Bowl between Oklahoma State and them once a year. That would be fun.
Oregon State's a great fit for the Big 12, really.
And they're really good fans. It's got a good fan base. They're very passionate about what they do, and their baseball program is out of this world. So
their basketball got to the Final Four a couple years back.
Did it? I don't remember that.
Maybe Elite Eight. Was it?
Oh,
Elite
okay. Yeah,
it
maybe was. I've sort of tailed off on basketball recently. I don't know.
And the football this year for Oregon State's supposed to be good. They got DJ.
Right.
Clemson.
That is absolutely true. Yeah. In fact, this year they might be a dark horse. Definitely. I don't know what their betting line is in Vegas, but it's quite possible they're a dark horse for the league.
More San Diego State stuff here.
So this is the article that came out yesterday. It's an article that's based around an interview that the Mountain West Conference commissioner and also the president of San Diego State answered questions for this article. But there's just a few things in here that I wanted to bring up, and we could talk about them. And then if anybody has comments or wants to join the show, please do. Let's see here. So the June 30th deadline, everybody's heard it ad infinitum, right? We're by June 30th, OSU has to give notice. Sorry, SDSU has to give notice, or else they're locked in to the Mountain West for another, I think it's 3 years, if I remember right, 3 years. And the separation value doubles. So it goes from 17 million to 34 million, which does not sound good. Let's see here. There were a couple. I like this. I thought was really telling, and I'll just go through this a little bit, and then we can talk about it a little bit. So this quote from the commissioner, Gloria Navarez, says when she took the job, she expected SDSU to be announcing any minute that they were going to be going to the Pac-12. Did that happen?
Mm-mm.
Was SDSU promised, quote unquote, promised that they're the next call up if an extension goes, that they'll be the first one called?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So now, how do you feel if they've strung along SDSU, and then SDSU loses a place to sit on the bus? How would you feel?
I would be furious. I'd be very frustrated if I'm a San Diego State fan. But like the fact is, in like the realignment game, and Greg Flugar, the Peek Around the Corner, says this all the time. There's like a stepping stone of like things, events, chain reactions that happen and everything. And San Diego State's just about fifth, right? The four corners are all in front of that. So like nothing's going to happen until the four corner movement happens and Oregon and Washington happen. And it's going to trickle down. So they're kind of just stuck right now. Like, what do you do though? Like, what do you withdraw from the Mountain West just so you're not paying more? Like, I mean, is that realistic? Probably not. I mean, they're just kind of stuck with everybody else playing this. They're in the dance. Everything's dancing right now. Bomber.
So in this article, it actually, and I had forgotten this, but it reminds us that back in 2011, the SDSU left the Mountain West once before, and they were going to join the Big East.
Yeah, that's right.
And then that deal quickly unwound, right? And they ended up coming back, but they had to reapply. So just because SDSU has a place in the Mountain West today, there is no guarantee that they'd be back. Now, why wouldn't the Mountain West take them back, right? There's really no reason not to, but they're not contractually required to take them back into the conference.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, seriously, what do you just withdraw?
So that's that game of Russian roulette, right? That's why the 30th is such a big deal. Yeah, they could go on faith, but is their faith been paid back by the Pac-12 up to now? No, I don't think that you can say they have.
I'm tempted to play that card, honestly, because no matter what, like, I mean, if the Pac gets raided, then that new Pac is going to survive again and raid the Mountain West school. So you're in that anyway. You're a guaranteed shoe in for that.
Big 12. Sure.
I mean, it's a huge risk. I mean,
It
like,
is.
it's hard to make that decision. The high ups make that decision, but it
So
could be a flip.
Greg Pflugar's premise was that if the Big 12 stole San Diego State, that it would in essence cause the demise of the Pac-12. At the very least, keep it stunted in its crib, right? That's Greg's premise. I actually think I love Greg, but that's one thing I disagree with him on. I don't think that SDSU is make or break for the Big 12. I don't think that they have to have them, and I think if they stole them, there is a potential that it would take a spot that another school more valuable would otherwise get. So I don't think the Big 12 has to make a move, so I don't think they will. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I don't think the Big 12 needs. Well, San Diego State. I don't think it would take out the Pac if San Diego State went to the Big 12 either. I mean, like you get the fertile recruiting grounds in Southern California, but I'm
Right.
not sure that moves the needle enough to really take out the Pac if it's just San Diego State. If you pair San Diego State with another four corner school,
Right.
it could, because then all of a sudden you're in more time slots and everything. That would be a blow. But San Diego State by themselves, probably not. But hey, San Diego State and CU in like Arizona or something, yeah, we're talking about a different world then. It's an asset, right? The recruiting grounds and the time, and I think that I mean, San Diego State's more important than the Pac. You got to have that spot stuff for recruiting. It's big, but you still have Cal,
Yeah.
of Stanford in Northern California. It
Right.
would be a wound, but probably wouldn't kill it.
Well, we all know the Big Ten is going to own Southern California for the near future with UCLA and USC. So, and they're going to be playing games in that brand new, beautiful building down there, and it's not going to be a problem getting big numbers in the LA market. So, the only question is, somebody has to make a calculation and an educated guess. If you give X number of dollars in revenue to San Diego State, what is their ceiling to growth? Everybody says that if you give them the money, they'll grow. It's just an automatic, and that can't be denied. Utah grew, TCU grew, BYU is going to grow. You get more money, you're going to do better. But is it enough to make a big difference? I don't know.
I think that it could be, just because the
Okay.
recruiting grounds there. The Chargers are gone from San Diego. It
Right.
could be the
Right.
event. I mean, so there's major potential for like a juggernaut with San Diego State, especially with more money and
Right.
everything. Hey, like that, it makes sense that could be really a brand that blows up, kind of like almost like a TCU. You know, TCU's kind of made the rise and everything.
Right.
That's
Right.
kind of what I'm thinking. Like maybe they can make a TCU run and everything if they can hold a lot of the in-state talent in SoCal, and they've lost a lot. I mean, they're not getting the primary kids right now. UCLA, and USC are going to get more, but still holding more talent. You don't have to go anywhere else for talent. You just
Right.
recruit in your own backyard. Like it makes sense.
Which is why BYU would like SDSU to be in, I believe. I don't
Definitely,
think I
that
don't
makes
think
sense.
Olmo's come out and said, yes, absolutely, we're beating down the door for SDSU. But I can almost promise you those conversations have happened because of the long-standing relationship they've had with them for 50 years.
Definitely.
C. Kaufman, this is just follow up on the a black and orange bowl game, which would be Oregon State and Oklahoma State, which is funny. Not only are they the same colors, they're the same initials.
The
Isn't that
Pumpkin
funny?
Bowl.
Isn't that funny?
The pumpkin. You know, your Mark would totally play that too.
I definitely think so. All right, we're gonna go around one more time. If you have any comments or suggestions, or you want to join the show, please let
Yeah.
us know.
You're invited to pop on, and we can conversate about anything you want to.
Don't say we never gave you a chance, because we've been giving you chances all show. Right now, hey, you and I haven't decided. Are we going to do a Monday show? It's a holiday.
I think we're going on Tuesday.
Right. Okay. All right. We'll go on Tuesday night. We have two shows. We have one that's going to be with. Well, you tell us about the guy that we're going to be interviewing on Tuesday.
Yeah, Fitz from over in the K-State world. He was the writer of Power Cat Illustrated. Tim, And so he's going to jump on, and we're going to have a conversation about the Utes and how the Big 12 sees the Utes in particular and everything that's going on right now. So we're excited to have him, and I'm really interested to hear his thoughts and really where Utah shakes out with the Four Corners, and if Utah has screwed itself with some of the comments made. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to get down deep in it and stuff, because I think that he has some thoughts that he wants to share, and that's fair.
And I'm just remembering, do you know off the top of your head, is it at 8 Eastern or 10 Eastern that we're it's 8 p.m. Mountain, isn't it?
What the follow-up?
The with Fitz? Yeah, okay. I know I could check my messages. If you want to take, I don't have another comment. Let me just check my messages right here so we can tell everybody what time that show is.
What you know what? I'm just going to talk to this too. So
go ahead while I'm looking that up.
I want to talk about with Wazoo. Really, what's the options for Wazoo? If the Four Corners leave, if Oregon and Washington leave, what does Wazoo do? I think they're kind of in the same boat, obviously, as Oregon State.
Right.
We're looking like that, holding the pack together, hopefully. I'll be making calls to the Big 12 for sure to see if there's any way to get in the Big 12. In worst case scenario, trying to hold whatever the remnant of the pack together is, maybe with Cal and Stanford, and bringing schools like San Diego State and perhaps in Fresno and some other schools to backfill the pack. I think that's probably what you're looking at. Kind of like with a lot of other schools, the Big Ten's not really going to be coming for a Wazoo.
No. And that in 2 years, the Pac-12 is going to lose their accreditation if they lose the Four Corners and Washington and Oregon. They're not going to be a P5. It's going to be a P4 after that time.
Right. That would make a P4.
So I just looked it up. It's 8 p.m. Eastern, so it's 6 Mountain. We will be that'll be our next appointment viewing for the Holy Rivals show. And we really appreciate my Big 12 Mafia channel just went over 1,000 followers on Twitter. We are blowing up here on the Holy Rivals as well. I think we're approaching 400, and it's only going to get better. And we're here for primarily Utah, BYU, and then underprivileged. People underrepresented, not underprivileged, underrepresented schools that aren't getting the run that you're getting in the rest of the national media.
Yeah, this is a show for really Pac and Big 12 fans too. To kind of have conversations. Not many shows out there where we're talking about this, like the differing sides. And so this is the avenue to bring your thoughts, call-ins, comments, and stuff. And we're going to get real about how things are going here for these two conferences.
And don't hesitate to give us show ideas on Twitter. We come up with show ideas off the top of our heads unless somebody gives us an idea. So if there's something you really care about, please let us know.
This is an interesting one right here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Comment says, well, do you see Utah leaving or going if Stanford and Cal are still in the pack? Oof. That is so hard. Because a lot of Ute fans like to align with Stanford and Cal. Makes sense, just like with San Diego State. I think that Utah, if those two were on board, would be making calls to the Big Ten, making calls to the ACC to see if there's any way that they could remain aligned. But if there was no other way, no other avenue, I think that the Utes still have to go to the Big 12. Because those schools, they don't see, at least my perception is they don't see Utah necessarily as a peer. They kind of see Utah.
I definitely don't think they think they're peers.
Yeah, a little bit, and they probably would, leave any chance they got without even thinking about Utah twice.
Yes, they would.
So I think that Utah has to take care of house and do what's best for them. But it's been great, guys, being aligned with Stanford and Cal and being in the pack. I mean, I've told you, Bomber, before. Like I went to school about 4 years ago at Utah. I went back to school. And the experience the second time around versus the Mountain West days or the Pac-12 days, the quality of education was phenomenal.
Right.
It was a different world. I mean, the campus is beautiful now. It's new. And it's made such a difference for the university. It makes sense why the fans want it so bad. I mean, it sucks that it's kind of getting taken away. But it's still, you got to do what's best for the school, front porch, exposure, the athletic program. And I think that you got to make the move to the Big 12.
Well, if what you and Larry said last night is most important, and that's football, then you got to be in a bigger league. You can't
Yeah.
be in a league that has been gutted. That just doesn't make any sense. Because we're talking about not academics associations. We're not talking about AAU at this point. We're talking about playing big boy football,
Yep.
and nobody really cares about grades. Tell that to Florida State. Oh, sorry, that was bad dig. Dustin has one more comment here about SDSU's comments. Say they're aligned and they'd rather be in the Pac-12. Yeah. Well, you just mentioned that.
Yeah, SDSU's one. You guys, that's so valuable to them. That's such a score to try to align
Right.
with Stanford and Style, the in-state schools. They've always been way behind those two, and so it makes
Absolutely.
plenty of sense. That really enhance their value of their academics and their brand being aligned with those schools. And yeah,
Which begs the question, would they rather shut their programs down than be the only two anchor schools to a completely destroyed Pac-12 or Pac-10, Pac-5, Pac-2?
shutting down football for Stanford and
Yeah.
Cal. I
Yeah.
mean,
Because they don't care about it near as much anymore.
and it could happen.
It could happen. They're already Stanford's already said they're not taking NIL money, which you go to Stanford, you get the education that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they're getting tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of dollars to play at USC and Big Ten football.
Mhm.
So anyway, Randall, if you're not familiar with him, Dustin's got this comment. He's the president of University of Utah. And he is pragmatic, I think. I don't know what you think, but his comments to me, I think, have been as a tip in the hat to the Pac-12 as possible, but also knowing that the world doesn't end west of West Valley City.
And you're still going to be playing. If you go to the Big 12, you're still in now a P4 conference.
Right.
Like, this is for the long haul, guys. It's not just a short term play. If you make that decision, it's for the long haul. And like telling you as a Utah fan, this is all about being in a big boy league for years down the line and aligning with that and making sure you're in and you don't get left out. That's why you make that move. I think that Utah's administration realizes that. I hope they do, because you can't go down. You can't go down with the ship. Like, you got to make a move.
I just don't know why they're the only ones. They're the only captain on the Titanic. I don't get it. Everybody else has found all the only lifeboats that they have. They're
because
leaving.
it's been so good. It's been so good,
well,
and like it's been amazing. What an amazing
change.
ride it's been the last decade. Change sucks, and we're
Changes.
living on the high horse right now as youth fans in this conference, like winning the conference and everything.
Right? No, I understand.
I've told you everything's changed with the university. Like, it's a completely different world, and so saying, "Hey, you should just leave that and go over somewhere else and change your recruiting grounds." Partially in California and stuff, it's a huge move. You don't know if you're going to have the same level of success. I'm optimistic about it, but like I can see why fans, pushing back on that.
Let's see. Lorenzo says, I don't know for sure Stanford would align with Boise and Fresno for going to the Big 12.
Think about this though. Like, I mean, Stanford and Cal, like, just think about culturally, politically, and stuff. Like, do you think honestly they can align better with BYU and Baylor? Let's be honest about that. That's the question. Like, can they be in the same room and align politically with those schools? Utah can, but can Cal and Stanford? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. No.
That's it.
Let's see. Joe says, I hope the Pac survives and the SDSU can help it survive. I think if it does survive, SDSU will be an anchor school. I think if they bring them in, they know their worth. And SMU, we haven't talked about them at all. Unfortunately, they're the 12th team. If San Diego State is 11 to go to the Pac-12, but at this point, if the Pac survives, it's going to have to grow. It's going to have to do a Tulane, SMU. It's going to have to do an SDSU. They might pick up Boise. I mean, Fresno, right, in California. They need to do whatever they can to stay relevant, and that's why it's just going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah, SMU is kind of far down the waterfall, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
there are pressing issues. It's really kind of on the back burner, like expanding the Pac, like you trying to hold the house together. Forget expansion right now. Like, can you survive in the current iteration?
Right.
And it's looking unlikely.
Well, I think we can wrap it up. I think at this point, what we're talking about, we summed it up. What the weekend's news has been, the last couple of days have been very lively and realignment. We have these, just to circle back to the top. Colorado and Arizona State have Board of Regents meetings this next week. We're not exactly sure what they're going to talk about, but they weren't on the books Friday morning. So that leads us to believe, just reading the tea leaves, that there could be some action coming quite quickly.
Could be. We'll see. And maybe they're hiring treasurers too.
Maybe they're hiring treasurers. All right. Appreciate you too, Joe. Thanks to everybody who's participated today. We really appreciate all the followers that we've gotten.
Absolutely.
We're building a community here, and we want everybody to feel a part of it. BYU and Utah are the holy rivals, but as far as we're concerned, anybody west of the Rockies, that's us. So I'm going to say bye. You have anything else you want to say, you?
Let's continue the dialogue on Twitter, social media. Follow me at the Wild Ute. Let's engage. And as always, go Utes.
Go Utes. We had 2 comments here. Let's get this in. OU and I guess that's UW, Cal and Stanford will sell out the Pac to join the Big Ten. I think that's it. That's a great parting shot, because that's it. They would, in a heartbeat, sell out.
Yep.
Everybody that isn't those 4 schools. Anybody? Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Appreciate all the veterans who have served, and go give a hug to a veteran. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Take care, y'all.